It's Ace, and if you haven't heard, the brand new Ace at Large podcast comes out every Thursday. And what the Ace at Large podcast is built around these days is the idea that you are not alone. Whatever you may be going through, whatever you may be dealing with, you are not alone. And what we need for the podcast is you. We need your stories, your ideas, your concepts. Tell us how you overcame something. Tell us what you dealt with in life and how you conquered it, because the idea is what you've dealt with in the past is going to make it easier for someone else to deal with whatever it is they might be going through. And that's something special. So you've got all the information down here below me on the screen. Contact me. Tell me about your story. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about what you've overcome. And we'll see if we can't provide others with the help that they need. All right. It's the Ace at Large podcast, available every Thursday. And I would love to hear from you.
This is the Radio Button Network. And this is the new Ace at Large podcast. Ace at Large podcast. Now, your host, Ace.
Sounds kind of odd to say. I've been doing the Ace at Large podcast for a long time. And for a long time, several years, it was a totally different thing. I would come in and talk about stuff that was fun or funny or things that aggravated me. And that's where the name came from. Ace at Large, meaning I could just run with it and talk about whatever it was that I wanted to talk about. And then, obviously, a year ago today, my world changed in a big way with the death of my daughter. And I wanted to do something different. I wanted to take who she was and who she was becoming and build a legacy for her to move forward. And just as a tribute to her, helping leave a little bit of her for other people. And we're going to do that. And I'll explain a little bit later why this is the last one of these. Why this is the last Ace at Large podcast as we go forward from here. But here we are. I have been dreading this day. I have been up a very long time as we're doing this now, and I am, to be quite honest with you, I'm struggling to find the words or the proper thoughts. But at 1 year ago today, at this moment, I was in shock. Still trying to formulate my thoughts and figure out what to do and what do you do in these moments, in these situations. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like I often do, a little before 3. Didn't sleep well. I never really do that much. So I kind of woke up and decided, well, I lived in a great apartment that I loved in uptown Charlotte, and decided I'm just going to go down and do cardio for 30 minutes, just kind of get my day started, which is what I do regularly. And I was changing clothes and noticed that I had missed a call because my phone was still on silent from my ex-wife. And I thought, that's super odd at this hour. And texted, hey, did you mean to call me or something? And she responded with, call me if you can. And I did. And that's when she told me she was standing in the hallway of the house and talking to a police officer. And around 12:15, my daughter had been in a car crash. And she was dead. 3 weeks after her 21st birthday, which was magic. Just, and quite honestly, because of my wife, Amanda, who at the time was my fiance, that's what made it so magical, because she knew all the right things to do to set it up for a 21-year-old girl to have a great birthday. And it's a night I'll never forget. And then 3 weeks later, she was gone. And at this hour, a year ago, I was still trying to figure out what had happened. And it was odd that so many times I felt this need to be the person to call and deliver the news to people. And finally, Amanda was the one that said, hey, stop reliving this over and over. Let me take care of calling people, because I felt it was my responsibility to call my friends and it was my responsibility to call. And Amanda finally convinced me. Everybody will understand. Hang on a second. You're taking on way too much of this burden. And so I kind of finally let go of it, and she started kind of organizing friends and family, and here we are a year later. And unbeknownst to me, a couple of days later, TJ renamed the radio family charity Peyton's Promise. And we've been able to do some things in her name, especially around Christmas, to help some families that were in need. And that was just an incredible gesture by somebody who has been there for me in so many ways he and his family don't even realize. But what do we do now? I mean, for so many people who have been a part of this radio family for so long, she has been a part of this radio family. If you don't know, I actually found out that my ex-wife was pregnant. I mean, she was my wife at the time. She's not my ex-wife. But I found out that Peyton's mom was pregnant while having lunch with a bunch of winners and the band Bare Naked Ladies. You probably remember 1 Week was their big hit. And I announced it to everybody there at that lunch that I was going to be a father for the very first time. And that was in 1998. And Peyton was born in July of 1999, July 3rd. And she's just been on this show and around this show and all for so long. So many different things that she's been a part of, whether she knew it or not. You know, talking about her when she was little and just joking about the crib cage that we had to create for her because she kept climbing out of her cage, and the little accent that I would use for her that for some reason made her sound as if she were of Asian descent when clearly she's not. And her softball escapades and her graduation and just living life, going through these experiences that everybody else does, but sharing them on the radio. You know, all of that was a part of who we are. You know, you know about my kids, you know about TJ's kids if you've been around for any length of time, because that's what we do, is just come here and share. And for the past year, I haven't had anything new to share. So I don't really know what I am supposed to do today. I don't know what I'm supposed to tell you. I don't know what I'm supposed to share with you. I have a few thoughts, and maybe I'm not supposed to know. Maybe I'm just supposed to sit here and start talking to you and work my way through this somehow, because that's what might help me. But I woke up this morning about 2:00 in the morning, and for some odd reason, I wanted to make certain I was awake at the time I got the phone call last year. I don't know why. And I wanted to, at that time, and I don't understand this, I wanted to go down. I went to the gym 3:15 this morning. I was sitting on a bike in the gym doing cardio. And I don't know why that was important to me, but it was like this thing that I was supposed to have been doing instead of getting this phone call. That was important to me today. Couldn't really tell you. But it meant a lot to me to get it done. And, you know, like I said, I woke up at 2, and my therapist had left me a really sweet text message that came in late last night while I was asleep, and it touched my heart. And maybe I'll share some of it with you here in a few minutes. But, and then I prayed, I don't pray a lot. I'm not a, as I've often said this, as Christians go, I am no shining example of being the best Christian in the world, but I try. And I prayed the same thing I've always prayed since this happened to Peyton. I mean, just thanks. Thanks. Because, man, for those of you who didn't have the pleasure of being in a room with her, when she walked in a room, you could feel the energy change in a room. When she came in, big smile, big, beautiful eyes, and man, she could just light it up, take it over, felt comfortable in any situation, talking to people, making jokes, cutting up, laughing. I mean, I will forever be thankful. Proof that I'm not the shining example of a Christian the other day. I've been going through a lot of stuff lately, and I told somebody the other day, I'm ashamed to even say this, but the other day, in a moment of frustration with the world, I just don't think God's even just given up on me. And that's not true. I was wrong. Because, God's given me this incredible person as a wife, and he's given me these two incredible kids, and he's given me more than I deserve, that's for sure. And so this morning, I just, among the many other times I've done it, prayed to ask God, please forgive me for that statement, just said out of frustration. And then I sat down and cried for about 10 minutes. Because I don't know what else to do, man. I don't know what else to do. So, I mean, here's the way I look at it. Especially if you're a dad. If you're a dad of a, and I want it for both my kids. I'm not putting one in front of the other, but I think you tend to be more protective of your daughter. I think moms tend to be more protective of their sons. But I've always maintained that all I ever wanted in life was to be her hero and my son's hero. And I think that I was. I said in her eulogy that she always pointed out, hey, you're my first call. And I would always tell her, no, if you're ever in an accident or something, you call 911 first. But I was secretly super proud of the fact that I was her first call. Whatever happened, I was her first call. She got lost one time, and I was her first call. And she was frustrated and angry at herself and being loud. And I know this feeling very well. She comes by it very honestly because I've done it 1,000 times. Mad at myself, lashing out. And I said, you need to calm down. And she was like, I can't believe you're going to tell me to calm down. And I just hung up on her. And she called me back and she said, I figured it out and I apologize for having raised my voice to you. And I couldn't help but laugh. I couldn't even be mad at her. I could never stay mad at her very long. I couldn't even tell you the number of times, I could probably count on one hand the number of times in her life that I was ever mad at her. And outside of my parents, she believed in me more than any person in the world ever has, and probably ever will. She believes that there is nothing I can't do. And I don't know that there is a greater feeling for a dad than to know that your child believes that. So here we are. And I am just trying to get through the day today. And I know a lot of people have felt the same way. And I know a lot of people have experienced similar things. So in no way am I trying to make it out like my situation is worse or more unique or anything like that. But there are a couple little things that I think I would like to share with you and to give you an idea of where we're going in the future. And we'll get to that in a second.
There's more of the new Ace at Large podcast next.
At Team Stowe, we want to make the home buying process an enjoyable experience.
Curtis, myself, and our entire team are here to help connect you with the best builders and realtors in the area so you can find the perfect home to make memories in.
Contact us when you're ready to see how we can help.
Welcome back to the new Ace at Large podcast.
It's funny, a couple of years ago, most of you know that I wrote a song for Peyton. And we released it as a single and shot a video for it and everything. And it's weird that the song is called Maggie Made Dreams. And if you're not familiar, I'll kind of tell you the quick story of how it came to be. When Peyton was very little, just a baby and even, a year or two old, whatever. When I was home in the afternoons, her mom would take off to run her errands and everything. And I would have time with her because, mom needed to do her thing. And I loved the time that I got to spend with Peyton alone like that, just the two of us. And oftentimes it involved getting her down for a nap and all that kind of stuff. But we would play a lot of music. We always play music around the house. She knew it, if she wanted to play music, she would crawl over to the stereo, to the wall unit and open the bottom part when she knew where she knew the music was. And that's how she kind of related to music originally. And it was always a very strong bond. I mentioned in her eulogy that I gave that she was my concert companion. And so the song began from an idea that I had because when she was little and I would have to put her down for her nap in the afternoon, I would hold her and she would be kind of cranky and tired and I would get her, lay her head on my shoulder and I would walk around. And one day I just began singing to her the unplugged version from the album Unplugged and Seated, Rod Stewart's Maggie May, which is a very inappropriate song to be singing to a child. It's about a guy who runs off with this old woman, a much older woman, who turns him into a man, so to speak, and shows him the world. And the acoustic version is much slower in the beginning, and that's kind of the part I would sing to her. And it became the song that made her go to sleep. There was no intent behind it. It just hit me one day as a song to sing that she might like it. She did, would go to sleep. And the song was intended to be the first dance at her wedding. Because for her whole life, I had always said, hey, when you get married, I want this specific version of Maggie May by Rod Stewart, the acoustic version. This is what I want to be the first dance song, or the father-daughter dance. And then I decided to write this other song for her about that moment and about her life. And because I would dream of her, what she was going to be when she was like, who would this little child that I'm holding, who would this person become? What was she going to be interested in? What was she going to do? What would she love? What would her passions be? Would she still like music? Would we hang out a lot? All these things that you don't know when your kid's 1, 2 years old, that kind of stuff. And she became everything I could have ever asked for. And not a lot of people know a lot of the stuff that she went through. And at one point, she left high school for a couple months, studied independently, caught back up during the summer, and re-entered for her senior year, and just had a great senior year. And she'd been through some stuff, and I'm comforted by the fact that right before she died, she was seeing the same person that I see as a therapist, and she's a wonderful lady. And she said, she was telling me one time that, right before Peyton died, they met, like within maybe a week to 10 days before. And that Peyton told her, I'm really feeling it's coming together. She had a new job that she was super excited about, and so was I. She was going to work at a place called Fahrenheit. She was working there. I only worked there for like 3 weeks before she died. And what's ironic is my apartment was on the 16th floor of a building called Uptown 550 in Charlotte. And it looks out towards the city. A block and a half over is the building where Peyton was working. Fahrenheit's about 21, 23 stories up, something like that. And I used to tell her, hey, she was a hostess, was when you sit people outside, let me know when you're going to be outside. I'll come outside and wave to you. She was like, no, Dad, I'm not doing that because it's cheesy and I don't have time to be calling you just so you can come outside and wave to me. But she thought it was funny that I wanted to do it. And I remember a year ago today, as the sun came up, whatever it was, 6:45, 7 o'clock, still trying to process what had just happened in my life. And I remember watching the sun come up and seeing it come up and realizing, just staring at that building. And we'll never know how great she could have been. But I'm comforted by the fact that she felt things were really beginning to come together for her. We had moved out of a townhouse in Mooresville, North Carolina. Peyton lived on the top floor. She had her bedroom on the 3rd floor of my townhouse that I was in at the time. And Amanda and I lived on the 2nd floor. And my son's bedroom was down the hall on the 2nd floor for when he was there. And Peyton had a huge room, the entire top floor with her own bathroom up there and everything. And it just felt like it was time. It felt like Amanda and I needed to move to a place that was ours. Amanda had moved into this place with me, and she was working in Charlotte and so forth. We needed to really establish ourselves as a couple. And it was time. It felt like it was time for Peyton to take that next step. And so I helped set her up in an apartment in Uptown Charlotte. She was right around the corner from us. And then she got a new job. And she was very proud of herself. For the first time in a while, she was very proud of herself. And that makes me feel a little better about the fact that she was feeling good about herself when she died. So, there's so many things I could sit here and tell you. I could talk all day about her and just go on and on and on and on and on. But I'd begin to bore you. And I don't want to do that. I mean, she was a great person. And I'm comforted in many ways by the fact that I asked 4 of her very close friends, I said, do me a favor, just email me a story or a couple of stories about Peyton that I can have just to keep. Doesn't matter what they are. I don't care. Don't worry about embarrassing content or whatever. Just tell me. And what I found interesting was they each did it separately, individually. And the same themes run through that made me so proud. That she was a genuine, good friend. She was a confidant. She was the person that they turned to when they needed a good opinion of what's the right thing to do. That she did the right thing when the right thing needed to be done. She was a great sister. One of the proudest moments of my life was we were at Cade's baptism. And he was older when he got baptized. It kind of took him a while to really invest the time to find out what it's all about and everything. And Peyton had done it years before. And the way our church does it, it was at a quarry. And there were a lot of people there, and they said, and look, if you would like to come down and be in the water with your family member when they're baptized, please feel free. And I was sitting next to Peyton in a lawn chair, and I turned to her, and I was going to say to her, I think I want to go. I'm going to go down there. And before I could speak, she said, I'm going. She was wearing a black dress. Just a long summer type dress. Didn't bring a bathing suit, wasn't prepared, didn't matter. And I stopped and I said, absolutely, go. And I went down and managed to get a picture as they raised Kate out of the water for being baptized. The first person he saw and the person he reached to hug was Peyton, because it meant that much to her to share in that moment with him, because she knew that in that moment they'll see each other again. That they'll see each other again one day. And I have that picture framed at my house. And I have since that day, immediately. I got a frame for it and put it up. That's who she was. That's who she was. I have a notebook. I'll quit going on and on. Two more quick things I wanted to share. I have a notebook that has a note from her. She used to tape these little notes all over the house, leave me little notes everywhere, and I would do the same for her. And it says, surprise, it's me again. Hope you're having a good day. She had left it in different places. She'd leave little notes in different places from time to time when we lived together in the townhouse. And so I taped it to the inside of this book that I have. And I have a picture in my car, in my truck, that is hidden, not really hidden, but it's on the visor. And I have to fold the visor down to see it. And I told my kids that when they graduated high school, I wanted to do something special that they will always remember. But I wanted to be an experience. So, sorry. I said, pick a place. We'll go there. And she wanted to go to Poland, to Auschwitz, because she read Diary of Anne Frank in the 6th grade. It changed her life. And she studied the Holocaust and read everything. She even read Mein Kampf by Hitler to try to understand how somebody could be this terrible. And we spent an incredible week in Krakow, Poland. We were there 6 days, I believe, 5.5 days. Just the two of us. It was unbelievable. The experience of a lifetime. We saw some incredible things. And we just hung out. And the last night, we were walking out, and we laughed the entire time we were there at how many people smoked in Europe. Like in Poland, it's like everybody smoked. everybody. And the last night we were leaving the big town square to go back and pack our bags. We'd had dinner. We were just goofing off. She was like, Dad, we need to buy a pack of cigarettes, because the cigarettes would have on the front, the warning was the picture on the front. And like in one, there was literally a father in a coffin while the mom held a baby and another kid stood next to her, and they were staring into the coffin at the dad. That was the cover of the pack of cigarettes. Nobody cared. Big lines to buy cigarettes. And we were leaving the square and walking back to our hotel, which was right outside the square. And I turned to her and I said, stop. Look me in the eye and make me a promise that you will not become a smoker. And I could see her eyes light up at the opportunity. And she said, I swear I won't. I said, promise me, if you become a smoker after this, it will devastate me. She said, I won't, Dad, I promise. I said, let's go buy a pack of cigarettes. So terrible fatherly thing to do, but we went and bought a pack of cigarettes and stood in this centuries-old square in Krakow, Poland. And we took pictures of each other smoking cigarettes like the European people do. And there's one where she's standing there, and I took a selfie of her, cigarette dangling out of her mouth, me, cigarette dangling out of my mouth, and both of us chucking the deuce to the camera. And she's so happy. And I look at it all the time. Sometimes I'll pull up to a red light, just pop it down, look at it, pop it back up. Because every time I look at it, it warms my heart so much to have been able to do that for her. Okay, where do we go from here? We'll get to that next. Hang on.
There's more of the new Ace at Large podcast next.
What's Share Funny? It's a show from TJ that's funny enough to share on social media. Hear Share Funny live from 9 to 10 Eastern, 8 to 9 Central each weekday morning on the Ace and TJ button. Available on our app and now on iHeartRadio.
Welcome back to the new Ace at Large podcast.
So where do we go from here? We'll get to that in a second. I want to share one last thing with you. And I know I've gone long today, and I apologize for the extra length. I was talking about her song, and I kind of got sidetracked on where I wanted to go with that story, and just share one last little thing with you. So I wrote her song, and we recorded it, and we decided to release it as a single and shoot a video, and we got all these dads and daughters who were a part of the radio family to participate. I just put out a call. Anybody want to take a chance? Maybe you'll be in a music video. Bring your daughter down on this day, and we'll do this to see what happens. And then there are some performance parts that go in it with me and Eddie Z, who I wrote the song with. Let's be honest, Eddie Z did most of the writing. I just wrote the lyrics, and then he would tell me when it was good. And Clifton Vant, who played on the song, and they're the two guys that play guitar in Charity Case. And I told them, look, I don't want it, like we decided we didn't want the video to be about me and Peyton, because it kind of became, we started playing the song for people, and they kept talking about what a great wedding song it was. And so we decided it would be super cool to involve these other people and let it just be a story about dads and daughters. We were able to get some great footage of dads, fathers seeing their daughters in their wedding dress for the first time. And it was all built around the idea that this was to be, for me and Peyton, our father-daughter dance song at her wedding. And that's kind of the story that we used to build the video, showing all these other people, but the common theme running through it was this one father-daughter combination that you would see her grow older as you go through. And I wanted her picture to be in it. And my original idea was maybe we just, as the camera pans the room at one point, I had brought a couple of pictures, specifically my favorite picture of me and Peyton of all time. It's a black and white photo taken when she was 12 years old. And I wanted you to be able to see it, just like you'd pan by it quickly as the camera goes through. And you just see me and her there, no mention of it or anything like that. And then we got, did we get lucky? Or was it just meant to be? Like little touch that God threw in there for us. That means so much to me now. If you go and watch the video, the song is called Maggie Made Dreams. You are going to see one of the most special moments in my life. And it's not a big thing. But we were filming sitting on this elevated deck, and we were using a drone to come up and take this shot and kind of pan out or pan in. And as we were sitting there playing back the clip, performing, I glanced over my shoulder, and Peyton had walked over, and she was sitting at a table watching. And as I noticed it, Eddie, who's to my right in the video, turns to me and goes, I told them to make sure she doesn't move. So last night, I go and pull up the video because I know at 3 minutes and 45 seconds of that video, I see her clapping. It's a brief shot. There she is. And as the camera moves, there I am, lip syncing to a song that I wrote for her. And in a couple of brief seconds, you see her clapping. No reason to clap. We're not really playing. We're just listening to the song. We're pretending to play music while we're singing along with it. But I get to see her appreciating and enjoying something that I did for her. And I was able to give her that moment. So, if you're so inclined, you want to check it out, I'm going to check it out several times today. I think she appears in there one other time, like in the back of a shot. But yeah, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Bam. There she is, man. And I can't tell you how many times in the past year I go back to that. Because I love it so much. In that moment, that whole thing was for her. It just worked out perfectly that there she is in the corner. I think it means so much because that's as close to that dance as we're going to get now. So this is the last Ace at Large podcast. This needs to take on a new life. It needs to be a new thing. It needs to be something different. It needs to have a name that's more indicative of what it is to become, what it has become. So my plan is now to take about the next 6 weeks and look for new names, look for different things that I want to include, and begin to prepare to have some guests and bring you something every week that you can use. That's more than just me sitting here sharing ideas and things that I've learned in the past year of going through what I've gone through. I can tell you a couple of things. Take some time today to let people that you love know you love them. Because thank God the night before she died, we had the best time. She had dinner with me and Amanda, and I can still see her walking out the door. And I couldn't see the front door of my apartment from where I was sitting on the couch, but she walked out. I said, I love you, got you first. See you tomorrow. Got you first was kind of an I love you thing we came up with, kind of developed. And she said, see you tomorrow. That tomorrow's a ways away now. That was a tomorrow that never came. And it won't. Until I somehow slide in the side door of heaven. There she is. So, I appreciate it. You've been here for a long time. And I love you very much. More than you know. And remember, one day you will tell your story of how you overcome what you're going through now. It will become part of someone else's survival guide. And the person who said that is, I think it's Brene Brown, Brene. And I have never been able to remember to give that person credit. I love that quote so much. And I hope that this is what this becomes. And I hope that it soothes you and comforts you. And I apologize for talking so long today. But I love her very much. And I miss her very much. And I appreciate you very much. And I just, before we take a few weeks off, close by the very same thing that I said when I ended her eulogy. Same thing I told her and texted her every night. Her response was always, got you last, because I always would call her and tell her or text her, got you first. Yeah. I got you first.
This is the new Ace at Large podcast. The new Ace at Large podcast will be back next Thursday.